The event today is an event organised by students for students using IoT technology, so it's very much within the framework of the kind of infrastructure that we've been developing in the university. We designed it in such a way that it could be available for research, for teaching, for engagement with outside organisations. My involvement in the Iot Program began a couple of years back when I was supervising a couple of master's student projects. One of them was on personalised air quality monitoring. So the idea was that you could have a device which would tell you, is the air quality good for you or bad for you in a particular place at a particular time. And so I contacted the head of the ITI, the Information Technology Group, in Information Services and said, hey, I'd love to use this technology. And he said, yeah, well, it's not quite ready, but maybe we can move it ahead.
One of the main goals is really to develop this model of how we bring together, how we understand data and how it's used, and how we engage people with data.
Well, our aspiration is that local authorities can deliver services more efficiently and in a more agile way, so responding more flexibly to changing conditions. There is also a push from Scottish Government within the Community Empowerment Act for more decision making to be made at a local basis. And ideally some of that decision making at least should be informed by evidence and by data.
So the Living Lab has kind of three tenets, which are data, design and society. So what we want to do is look at like civic issues or civic challenges in the city, and then we take this three-pronged approach. So we look at the data around the challenge, then we look at the social issues in the wider social and political context, and then we use a design method, design thinking kind of approach to bring the data and society together.
I think there's great opportunity for us to take, in the context of City Deal, an opportunity to do outreach into schools through IoT, build on top of some of their existing initiatives around things like the BBC Microbit, for example, and start to explore how they engage with data off the back of that.
What we really want to do is get people much more involved both in the process of understanding the data that is already collected, that's out there, that's relevant to the things that they're concerned about, and also in collecting and generating data to inform how decisions are made, so they're actually made based on what people think, what people feel on their lived experience.
We can see the demand in terms of the market for IoT, AI related technologies, and I think there's a significant question about how you can skill up people in those areas. I think that's what's quite nice about IoT and quite attractive about IoT is it's a very hands-on type of thing to be involved with. You're actually building a device and you're putting some sensors together. There's some practical skills which are actually involved in doing that, and the thing that you get does something, so it's very interactive.
I mean, the whole thing is that it's a foundational agreement between the university and the city, and the question is, how can we take this research that's happening in the university that's, you know, globally important, but take bits and pieces of it, or even more than just bits and pieces, and actually, you know, test it out in the city. The city can be a test bed.
These sensors are collecting data, so the next step is, well, now that I've collected that data, how do I start to understand it? So it starts to offer those opportunities to introduce younger people to all of those questions that we all need to ask. We're ultimately becoming a much more data-driven society, and there are all sorts of issues about our ability to understand and be critical about information that's being presented to us. So we need to develop those kinds of faculties in order that we have both a healthy society and I think, you know, one that's going to be strong and be able to respond to the economic opportunities that will come from Industry 4.0 essentially.